Shadow Minister Dr Ben Spencer.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I tell you what, as a self-professed data geek, it is, the Minister's quite surprised, but well, I am now self-professing myself as a data geek. It's a real pleasure to wind up on this important debate on behalf of the official opposition. As the original architects of the bill, we welcome that the government recognised the potential of these Conservative-led policies to make people's lives easier by being able to prove identity quickly when dealing with statutory agencies and service providers, to streamline and enhance public service delivery, such as by harmonising the information available to healthcare professionals across NHS settings, and to boost economic growth through the innovative use of smart data. In short, this bill will bring into effect the previous government's ambition to harness and exploit data as the currency of the digital age. The staggering pace of recent technological advances presents enormous opportunity, but also challenges which demand further scrutiny. And earlier, my honourable friend, the Shadow Secretary of State for DSIT, rightly pointed out some of the areas where the government's approach to the science and technology sector conflicted with the outcomes it wants. Now, we've had an extensive debate today with honourable members covering a range of topics, some of which I'm going to refer to shortly. But first, perhaps it's ironically apt that the data bill has had so many iterations and this recursive second reading that I must pay tribute to those working before us to get it to the state that it is in today. Now, much is technical and uncontroversial, but some still needs to be thrashed out and debated, and I look forward to taking this through in committee stage. I'd like to at this point pay tribute to Lord Markham and Viscount Camrose, particularly pleased to hear the response from the government with regards to security around the Underground Assets Register. The member for Malden, who I'm sure is very glad that he's not doing another second reading speech and hopefully not taking it through committee on this side. And of course, Baroness Owen and the incredible work that she's done. And I think the tribute that was paid to her by the member for Hunterton is far better than that I could put together from this dispatch box. And I thank him for the comments that he made. Now, my count is that we had over around 15, 16 backbench speakers, and I'd like to draw particular attention to some of the intervention from the member of Kenilworth and Southam, who pointed out some of the wranglings that took place in the House of Lords regarding research which is used, data which is used for scientific purposes, and I'm sure it's something that's going to be further discussed in detail when this comes through to committee around definition of public interest. And I particularly liked the member for Dewsbury and Batley speech, which I found really interesting, because as I've read to, much of this bill, this big tome, is I think in some ways uncontroversial. I was very interested to hear his comments on it, but I think many members focused on a few specific areas in this bill, but I think particularly looked at the whole scope of the bill, particularly around the civil liberties components and the GDPR issues, which much of what the core of this bill is about. Turning to a few points I'd like to focus on. Starting with data accuracy, I'm referring to remarks for the member for Sleaford and North Hykeham, who's not in a place at the moment. To empower public and businesses to take full advantage of the speed and simplicity offered by digital verification services, there must be a high degree of confidence in the accuracy of the data provided by public authorities. In the other place, the Minister acknowledged this concern, stating that there must be a single version of the truth as far as the data underpinning digital identity is concerned. Now, however, he didn't support the amendment seeking to guarantee the accuracy of data, and nor has the Secretary of State in his opening remarks, made by public authorities for the purpose of digital verification services. While the reliability of data supporting digital identity is fundamentally important across the board, an area of particular importance is the accurate recording of biological sex. This is vital to ensure that services such as medical care are delivered properly and to protect female-only spaces. Biased data is worse than no data. Wrong data is worst of all. And we call on the government to ensure the robustness of data accuracy as a priority as the bill progresses. Turning to digital infrastructure, we must ensure the digital infrastructure is in place to support the aims of the bill. We welcome the inclusion of provisions of NHS data sharing in the bill, and I should declare an interest as a former doctor whose wife is a doctor, and I've spoken many times of the importance of data sharing. We focus much on AI, but we need to get the basics right. NHS data sharing, if implemented effectively, would enable the fast and seamless transfer of patient data between healthcare settings. It will lead to better clinical decision-making, improved outcomes of patients, and the member for Bury St Edmunds and Stowmarket will be able to see his patients more efficiently and more effectively. And I pay tribute to the comments and the strength of argument that he made on this, and I hope he takes up the mantle which I had when I was on the government benches in terms of pushing for this to happen as quickly as possible. To harness these benefits, the government has acknowledged that healthcare settings, IT systems will need to meet common standards to facilitate data sharing across platforms. The previous government set out a bold plan for upgrading the nation's digital infrastructure. This government must continue and expedite this work to ensure the NHS has the tools it needs to implement the bill's reforms. And finally, on the important subject of AI and copyright. The powerful debate, both in the other place and here, highlighted the challenges and the complexities and the importance of making sure that we get this right, and the challenges in the government's proposals for a data mining opt-out contained in its consultation. And this was referred to by many members across the House who raised this as a point, from the member from Malden, Scarborough and Whitby, Stirling and Strathallan, Perth, Kinross and Perth and Kinrossshire, Bury North, Knowsley and Cheltenham. We can't hold back the tide of change that AI has brought with it. We can't put the genie back in the bottle, but we can do and need to do everything in our power to protect and promote our creative industries so that they can continue to thrive and grow, as they did with the support put in place by the previous government during the pandemic. The government's consultation on AI and copyright remains underway. My honourable friend, the Shadow Secretary of State for DCIT, has stated the overwhelming need for the government to respond to that consultation as soon as it possibly can. The government must engage constructively with the industry and the official opposition to identify solutions which turbocharge our developing AI industries while protecting and boosting the growth of our creative sector. And you know what? This is something that's, I think all of us have stated, both people who work in the sector and people who benefit from the creative sector, just how important this is for our national identity. And I tell you what, live music and music for me is one of my passions in life. It's the thing that during the pandemic, I would say, I missed most of all. And, you know, the idea that we could end up causing harm to our creative industries absolutely fills me with horror. So certainly on this side, we absolutely want to make sure, not only for the people whose livelihoods depend on it, but for all of us, that we get to a position where we get this right and this works. And it's really, really complicated and it's difficult. And if it wasn't complicated or difficult, there'd be an answer to it right now. Europeans would have an answer to it. This is a difficult situation that we need to get through.
Would the right honourable member give way?
Of course.
Thank you to the right honourable member. As you said, supporting our creative industries is vital. Would you be able to clarify the Conservatives' stance on opt-in or opt-out in the current proposals?
Well, I thank you for giving way, and it's pretty much exactly as I've just said in my speech. There is a consultation from the government underway which is presenting 4 options, including the government's preferred option in terms of an opt-out. There are challenges with an opt-out approach. There's challenges with a whole range of different approaches. I've previously said from this dispatch box, it's important that whatever we do, we think about how that coordinates with other jurisdictions, particularly what can happen in other jurisdictions. And this is something which is very complicated, and we need to make sure we get it absolutely right. And hence why I said we need to make sure we need the response to this consultation as soon as possible so that we can chew through further what the best solution is in terms of delivering that. And I hope the Minister can update the House when he when he makes a contribution, when he finishes. Yes, of course.
The creative industries have been very, very clear about their position. The Shadow Minister says that he wishes to support the creative industries, and that's the position of his party. So would it be too much to suggest that he might just go a little step further and say that he supports the opt-in position, which is the position of the creative industries, which would give them, I think, a lot more reassurance that there is support on both sides, or in fact on all sides of this House, for the position the creative industries are taking?
Well, I thank him for his intervention. That's why myself and why the DSIT team, including our Shadow Secretary of State, is meeting. We have met with representatives of industry in general. I've met with representatives from the creatives. I'm fairly sure the Shadow Secretary of State has too. This is what the consultation is there for. I think it wouldn't be appropriate to make a unilateral declaration from the dispatch box when there is a live consultation which is looking into what is a complicated area. I don't think that would be reasonable opposition or good for anybody. There are no easy answers to some of these challenges, but we should not shy away from them given the clear gains for the public and the economy that many of the reforms set out in this bill will deliver. His Majesty's official opposition and the Shadow DSIT in particular stand ready to work with the government wherever possible to find these solutions on these pressing issues. Effective engagement between government and opposition will promote confidence amongst tech companies and would-be investors that the UK is open for business. The last government's vision was to harness the UK's competitive advantage in tech industries to boost our economy and revolutionise the way we live to the benefit of our population. We remain committed to these goals in opposition.